farm Acolytes myself rather easily. The important thing to note about this is it uses Gyre, and a special thing that Tremna has with its alt fire. I'll go for the Gyre build first, as it's by far the more important thing here. One thing to note about this is the fact that Gyre just got a new augment cathode current. With this, it makes her 4 function like her 3. So every time you get a kill, your Rotoswell extends for the same duration Cathode Grace does, meaning you only have to cast them once. Other than that, it's a pretty unremarkable build. High strength, standard range, efficiency is never important on Gyre. As long as you have decent strength, her Cathode Grace will give you as much energy regen as you could possibly want. The other important part of this build is the Tremna. As you can see, this isn't exactly the best Tremna setup. This is a heat viral. How am I going to be using this in the Steel Path? Wait, for context, here's the Riven mod. If you don't have a Riven mod, you could swap this out for any damage mod of your choice. Personally, if you're doing specifically what I am with it, where the hell is it? The name of the mod is failing me, but Heavy Caliber could work as well. Well, Heavy Caliber could work, or oh goddamn, I can't think of its name. Hammer Shot. There we go, Hammer Shot. As the entire point of this build, you're not using your Tremna for anything other than one-shotting Acolytes. That's the only important thing that this does. While the Tremna build is not easily accessible, the Gyre build is. You can get away with this even having a 1 from a build, and not having Vigilante Pursuit on here. Multi-Augmented isn't needed, but it's helpful. Arcane Aegis isn't needed, and it's helpful. For secondaries, personally, I use my secondary for DPS. This is my build, 2 Forma, Reactor. I've done this without secondary Merciless. I'm going to leave it on just for ease of use, but you don't even need a secondary Merciless for this to work. And then for melee weapons, bring whatever you choose, but my personal weapon is pretty much always a heavy attack focused Redeemer. For companions, for ease of use, you could bring yourself a Vulpaphyla, but for utility, you could bring yourself a Smita. Generally, I'll either have Adria, or I'll have Abaddon with a build like this on here. A very tanky build. Personally, I'm going to leave it to Adria just so there's no interference going on. But this build, it's very simple in progress. It's very simple in action. So if you're just going to farm Steel Prime Acolytes, if you go here with a Gyre build, it is one of the easiest things you will ever fucking do. If you hear crinkling, I apologize, my dog is messing with the bag. But one very, very important thing about Gyre is that she does an ungodly amount of electric damage with her abilities, which are insanely good against the Corpus. You'll see here, most of the time, outside of when I'm just stacking my weapon, stacking either my Tremna's Altfire or Gyre's 3 and 4, at least initially, I won't even really be shooting my gun.
Each enemy is more powerful than before. Only with true mastery of the Tenno arsenal will you succeed.
I may have cast my 4 a little early, but the important thing is I don't cast your 3 early.
They're trying to choke you out. Hold on. I'm sending auxiliary life support.
They broke my shield quicker than I would like, but it's something that always works. As you can see, Gyre's abilities do all of the work for you. You don't need to worry about actually having particularly well-built weapons outside of the Tremna. Your Tremna has to be built well for this method. Now that the abilities are stacked, all that there's left to do is to simply stack the Tremna's Altfire and wait for the Acolyte. This isn't even a particularly great room for it. But as you can see, using this, it's not exactly hard to just sit here and kite around the Corpus and kill the Tremna.
like some serious crud is going down out there. Here's to
Now that
you,
I'm trying to stack up, we're
anonymous
trying to find a bit more of a
troublemaker.
beneficial area to have gyro. Because another very important thing about this gyro build is that using the augment, every time you get near an enemy, you zap them with rotors. But whenever you kill an enemy, you release a double damage blast from Rotospell. So if you can find a room that's actually good for gyre, you can sit there and as enemies come in, they'll just keep dying rapidly to Gyre's 4.
Activating it will buy you more time.
Generally, you want to try to find a smaller room or an elbow room. Personally, I look for rooms a bit smaller than that if I'm doing this and just trying to more or less be semi-AFK. An area like this, well again, not perfect. Perfect function. If you keep one of her balls at both entrances, those alone will generally kill any single enemy that can really get in here. And this is where having Archon shards for duration might help. Personally, I don't have a single Archon shard in my gyre, which I'm going to be changing rather soon. Probably going to try to slot her with either max duration or more strength. I might go for more shield health just from tank since I use her pretty much exclusively in Steel Path. But as you can see here, this isn't taking effort, it's just running back and forth. If you want, you could make this even lazier. Find an area like this. Keep those up there. Sit in here, run it, collect back support, repeat. Personally, I'll just go with you fucking more if that happens. Was that Nexus unit? Fun thing with Nexus units, their shields are, I believe they're still weak to magnetic. I mean, weak to electricity, meaning gyre will tear through them anyway. This does not work efficiently against the Grineer, so if you want to do any farming on their tile sets, you're going to have to use a different build. You can still use the same principle, but your abilities won't be nearly as effective. Here we go, an Acolyte is spawning. Torment. I forgot specifically what that one does, but it doesn't matter. Where the hell are you, buddy? Boop. Trauma Fire expended. Now all I have to do is refarm the Fire. The higher level your Arcane Grace, the more efficient this is. Don't worry about getting Arcane Grace. It's not mandatory for this build. It's just a very helpful arcane. This build works with no arcanes, but when you're ready to do Steel Path, you should be on the Zerman at least, which means you should have rather easy access to the multi-augmented set. But as you can see here, using this method in a room like this, it's no effort. People call Gyre bad. I'm gonna say that she's horrible against the Grineer, but against the Corpus, there's no better Warframe. Magnetic Truck is scary. Personally, why I always bring a Saturn with me is just... It's just so if there's an Exodus I don't want around, I can easily kill it without needing to rely on the abilities. Because her abilities are huge AoE, and what gives Gyre a lot of their abilities is the fact that whenever they crit, they release a very high damage chain, such I believe you saw there a 27,000 orange crit from just the chain strike. Because again, that's what her 4 does. Her 4 is Ember's first rework when they changed her Wall of Fire from global to a radius. It's that, but just fucking better. This is an armor stripper. Of course, it's not exactly my damage one. but this is also a great example to show you how to use Gyre. Gyre is best used against the Corpus, although in standard path, anything works against her, so you can still use her there. This also works well against the Infested, just because the Infested aren't particularly tanky. So if you're just trying to farm spores, one of the things you can do is just hop and build like this, use her 4, and then just forget about it. Because even if you don't have her 3 on standard, in the Origin system, ooh, I thought I touched that wolf for a second. That got novel. It'll work against the Grineer and Infested. Against the highest level Grineer in the Origin system, it's not going to be perfect.
With my life, I protect your sacred crown.
He's not even fucking worth it, I'm gonna be honest. Fuck it, I'll see if this thing will one-shot him. Or I'll miss completely, holy shit. Very stacked this thing, man. Hey, do remember, whenever you are farming Acolytes, don't bring a fucking status. They're capped on the amount of status.
Oh, blossom, thief, and with it, wisdom. Farewell.
I always have my operator set up for Arca hunts because, honest to God, why not? I never changed out the Arcanes to the ones I use for Archon hunting. If you're playing Giant Steel Path, it might be a decent idea to bring, just save some health regen. Go over, just make sure my trim is stacked. Fuck it, I'll do a full cycle of 4 of them just to show that it works against all of them. The only one that might give you trouble with a build like this is the, I forget which one it was, but the one that silences you. Just a tip for those who don't know this. When it comes to farming Steel Path, if you want it on easy mode, oh shit. That's an oopsie, but this is a great time to point something out. If I have my knowledge correct, you do actually need to die. You do actually need to have the abilities end, and then recast them for things such as Cathode Grace to actually benefit from the time. It can't be one continuous cast. So in this scenario, that was actually at least minorly beneficial. It lets me use the extra grace if I have. At this sense, I'll go for my operator loadout just so you guys see what I bring, at least operator-wise. One of the important things, I bring something that's regenerate my Warframe's health on demand. Since health orbs are unreliable. But in any mission type, if you just need to do damage, a build like this works fucking wonders. Because as you can see, just by existing, even Steel Path Corpus. Keep in mind, they're fucking Corpus, they're never going to be tanky. But in Steel Path, I can do a mission mainly using the abilities. Now, the applications to this are very interesting. Because one of the things a lot of people used Ember for, especially early days, were things like extermination missions. Personally, I used her rework a lot back before they changed the 4 again to what it currently is.
The longer you fight,
I used that a lot for extermination missions. This Gyre build is just that Ember, but better. Because while it may be electro damage and not fire, the electricity damage crits. And it does not crit gently. On some Corpus tile sets, you could probably set up a completely AFK farm and let that shit run for hours and not really be in any trouble. Oh, goddammit. That is true. If you slip up, you're just kind of fucked. But that's... I'll leave that here, because I need to go check what the hell Hessian has. But that's how I personally farm the steel
And
path.
so we learn the importance of clarity and purpose.
I wish it would show you how many ability kills you got. But if you just want to do steel path easily, this is a fantastic way to very easily do it. It's also not particularly high entrance. The only, the only things that can put you in trouble for copying this build exactly is the ribbon. Other than that, this is just an extremely easy build to emulate. Use a nuker of your flavor. That's mainly used to stack your your Cathode Grace and your 4 and your Rotor Swell. And use a Trumna with the Trumna. If you're just rushing in a steel path, could give you a bit of issue getting, since I believe it's a mastering 16 requirement. It's been a long time since I've made this thing. I made this in I believe I had this thing day 5 when Deimos came out, because I just thought this thing looked cool as hell. But outside of that, the Trumna is the only thing that's going to give you issue here in this build. Everything else is super accessible. Galvanized Chamber, you can place up a split chamber, that's no big deal. And for the Trumna Agricon, if you don't have this, you're either going to go for a damage mod or a crit damage mod. So Hammer Shot or Heavy Caliber, probably. Oh yeah, my operator. I will show you guys the build I use my operator. The Arcanes are the only thing that really matter. Equipment. I use Magus Nourish. As you can see, I haven't ranked this shit up at all. But doing this lets me just heal my Gyre or the Warframe when I need to, in an emergency. The Magus Replenish, Unvoid Swing, you heal. It's a great mod to have, and it does its job very well. For Eidolon hunting, you can use the same thing. In fact, I'll go with my quick Eidolon setup here. So the one I use the most is Serendipity. This is the easy one to use, but if you are going to be... If you're going to be doing Eidolon hunting, you'd be going Clamora, Disic, or Certus, or Propus, Certus, Raplac. If you're going Eidolon hunting using one of these two. If you're newer, you could be probably going for Schwax, Fraction, Lorn. It's been a long time since I've looked at this thing. I'll have to try that out. It's also probably not bad for Eidolon hunting, at least early on. Put those things out of the way. That's all you need to rather easily and safely farm Steel Path Acolytes. And Warframe put a fucking cap on the trades, which is a pain. But again, very easy build to emulate. There is nothing on this Gyre build that should give you any trouble at all, except Augur Secrets. But with this exact build, you could take off Vigilante Pursuit and put on Intensify. And have slightly higher strength, you'll just be missing the Augur passive. Which isn't particularly... it's not the best thing to have. Again, for tank, this build mainly relies on the fact that Gyre has good, at least solid shields, paired with shield gating, and then Arcane Aegis. The higher rank your Arcane Aegis, such as if it's maxed, you'll be fucking golden.
I thought you'd want to know.
But short little live stream on how I
Operator,
personally farm Steel Path. Steel Path is only as difficult as you want to make it. If you're just there to farm, because, why not? Steel Essence is by far the best way to get Kuva. Using a method like this will vastly increase... will make things vastly easier on yourself. Remember, if you want it easy, you go against the Corpus or the Infested. The Infested have very high damage, but most of them are melee as a trade-off. The Corpus, very high damage, but they're lower damage than the Infested, but they're also ranged. They do have, I'm going to say, less harmful in Xmas units, though, and a few better in my opinion, units to go against. But with that out of the way, that's how I personally rather easily farm. Okay, for context, that was actually still bad. If you don't believe that, you can go back and check the levels. There were fucking acolytes there, what the hell? That's what the fuck I'm talking about. But, thank you for watching, any of you who do, and I will see you guys next time. Goodbye.